make it better than yesterday. You can always find a way to start over again. When the sun rises, you can start over again. A new day, you can make it better than yesterday.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is your girl Diamond. I am so excited about this person being on the show. She is what I consider one of the Houston's mothers, the grand dames of Houston. In my brain, when I came to Houston, I was always curious about who I was gonna meet and who was gonna be. Every time I go to a city, I find like I can tell who is gonna be the Houston mothers and who is gonna be well, not in the mothers of the city. And when I came here, I was like, I know I'm gonna meet some girls who are kind of playing that role, just like some of the Indianapolis mothers when I lived in Indianapolis, Mississippi mothers when I lived in Mississippi, all the places I've lived. I was wondering who I was gonna find, and I was so excited that I found somebody cool. And so I wanted to introduce y'all to Atlantis Narcisse.
Love it, baby. Eat it.
So thank you for joining me. I want to start off by you telling me like about how you grew up here in Houston and who was loving on you in your younger years, like your family unit. How does that look? How does baby Atlantis, how were you navigating that?
Of course, I was born in Houston, Texas, early 70s, but I spent the first 7 years in Kansas City, Missouri, and then I came back. Right. So with my mom, she married, and I have an older brother, and then I gained a younger sister. But who was loving on Atlantis? I would say I don't really know how to answer that. I would say this. Atlantis was there because I remember telling my mom at 2 years old that I was a girl.
Hmm.
And I remember from the essence in my being, I knew that was there. So the thing is that I don't think nobody was loving on Atlantis. I think they were trying to love on that person that was birthed at that moment, right? But interesting in this trajectory of this thing of who was loving on that. Recently, of course, my mom has dementia, but we were cleaning out her storage. I am the only one of her children that has never seen a baby picture of me, ever. So when I was cleaning out that storage, I was talking about it with my son on the way going to the storage, and we found the only baby picture of me. And it was in December the 25th, the year I was born. So I was like 8 months. And I was just sitting there. So I had this picture blown up on my wall, and I sit there and I look at this picture because it's me, my mom, and my grandmother, my step grandmother at that time. And I constantly stare at that picture and I say, who are, hey, nice to meet you. Because I never saw a trajectory of my growth, right, in picture forms or archive in that way. So to see the first intro of me to me from within the year I was born was like, I cried, right? I cried and I still look at, matter of fact, I took the picture down yesterday to wipe it down and I had tears coming down because I don't think what people understood back in that early on thing when trans wasn't a language, even though it was in the books, but it wasn't a language within our community, what it was to be in that space, to know you are something unique, something powerful, something that is abundance to this community and to the world, but not being able to identify it or explain it. It's like being in an abyss yelling for a reflection of yourself.
Yeah,
So for me, I saw that, and in that picture, I did see Atlantis. I
gotcha.
did.
Did so when did things start to change and you start to live your truth, and who was the people that was affirming you in that time?
Now that I could definitely give you. So like I said, always knowing me and trying to be respectful of parents, Black parents, representation and all that shit. It was more like a hidden thing. But what was unique in this trajectory of myself was that I was a parent, a young parent.
Mhm.
And I had custody of my son, which was odd for a parent to have father at that moment to have custody of my son. And I was going on all the things that how being Atlantis or being my authentic self could challenge my parenthood, could be so many things, especially.
No way. Now we was gonna go into this, but you don't went into it. So I
No,
didn't
but
know.
I'm gonna tell you because
Yeah,
it's okay
how
with
did
you.
that happen? Like how now? Of course I know how you make a baby, but how does that process happen when like how did you end up having sex with a girl
So
and started?
oh, I love that part. Because yeah, because people I hate that people think you only could do one thing and this and that. For me, love has no gender, right? If you're loving on me and I have this connection, then that's where I'm at. I don't really just sit up on what somebody's gender is. For me, if I'm attracted to them, I'm gonna be with them. That wasn't my first girlfriend, wasn't my last girlfriend, and Nicholas wasn't my first. My son wasn't my first pregnancy that I had dealt with, right? So yeah, I think me knowing, yes, I identify as this, I know I feel like a girl, but I'm gonna love who I love. And just because I love one time don't mean I'm gonna love every time. You know, and as you mature, I mean, we're experimental, right? At that age, especially in an age where you did not have so much information accessible like we do now.
Yeah.
Um, you experiment, you know,
How old were you?
when I would have sex.
Not when you had said when you were doing the experimentation.
Shit, I was probably 14 and up. I
Gotcha.
think I personally I think it just calmed down or I got into the basis of where my essence was probably in my mid 20s. But then at some points I still question like where that may be if I wasn't in a relationship currently, right? And since I'm in a monogamous relationship and I don't do all this type of stuff, you know, I don't have those, my blinders are on in that relationship. When it came to Atlantis, there was nothing that I wouldn't sacrifice for my son. So though I knew I was Atlantis doing my shows and doing this and that, socially, I was just his parent, right? But it was a moment in their life, and this is who was loving on me. And this is a very important moment. It was a moment in that life, in that trajectory that my son at 13 came to me and said, Daddy, when are you gonna live your life and be happy? And I was like, Nicholas, what are you talking about? He was talking about Atlantis. He was like, when you gonna live your life and be happy? And I was like, I had to think on this shit. And then I had to tell him, wait, okay, look, there's nothing in the world I will sacrifice for you. So let's make an agreement. You graduate high school and I will graduate into myself. Until until you graduate, you are my responsibility and I will do anything to make your pathway easier where my life choices doesn't interfere with your life and you be taunted.
So from 13, when he asked you the question until he graduated, you said, "Hey, I'm going to make your life easier because we know that it can cause disruption, me transitioning and having to come up to your school and da 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 da." And he was like, "Yeah, so I'm not going to do that until you graduate."
Yeah, and I think I did smart because what people don't realize about my journey with being a father was that I had to carry my custody papers around everywhere. Every time I would try to go somewhere, I had to carry my custody papers. Every time I had to do something with Nicholas, I had to present my registering him in school, custody papers, get him out, custody papers. You know, so it was such a thing, and I already saw that bullshit. And I already knew that, okay, you're not gonna fuck with my kid. So me, I could be uncomfortable. I'm made for this shit. But you're not gonna play with my kid. I'm gonna catch a case behind my kid, right? So when we made the pact, he graduated and I just took off the two binders, dropped my hair. Everybody went and thought I got all this work done, but it was there. And why I said that was an important moment for me was because if it wasn't for Nicholas, y'all probably wouldn't have me here. He was the anchor of me staying in this world. And after 3 suicide attempts and me being unconscious for 3 days and hearing his voice for the phone, I literally woke up, right? Hearing my child. And at that point, I knew that that was my anchor in this life. But when that came and he graduated in that pact, we had met that agreement and I had to learn how to be my own anchor. So
Gotcha.
that was a different way for me. I came from a time where judgment and prejudice were high, and it wasn't as easy as people have it now, even though they think it's hard. But I envious them. I am envious this generation to be able to walk out and have a whole world fight for their rights around their gender identity and not just their race.
Gotcha. Once you transitioned and started to live your truth, how did your relationship with the queer community start to kind of grow? Because the very first time that I was introduced to you, we were at U of H and you were on a panel, and they were honoring a couple people in community, having a community discussion, and there was a lesbian Black woman who was, and it's the first time that I had heard it publicly um pronounced, like actually said out loud, because I knew I had saw this growing up, but I hadn't heard anybody say it. And so she basically said that when she was kicked out by her parents, or she didn't have nowhere to go because she was queer, she was a cis woman, but you as a trans woman took her in, and she was laying on your couch, she was sleeping on pallets on your floor, and she thanked you and just wholeheartedly kind of put it out there that, like, you definitely was one of the mothers who took her in when she didn't have anybody else, the chosen family that took her in when she didn't have even her blood family to count on. And I saw that growing up. I saw trans women taking in kids, and it wasn't just trans women taking in trans women or taking in gay boys. It was literally lesbians and studs, and people who was kind of like thrown away, like these wayward children, because we know statistically 40% of the homeless youth is LGBT. And so I saw trans women kind of step up to the plate and become like these makeshift mothers. And so
I remember that moment because then she asked the audience, how many of y'all have been impacted? How has Atlantis impacted your life? And people were standing up and doing that. That was overwhelming for me because I am such an humble person. So my path to this and how that got started, I would say this. I came into this community. I was 20 when I like literally I had a baby out, but I was too afraid to go in clubs, right? And stuff. But
what was
when
the fear?
huh?
What was the fear?
Just the prejudices that I dealt from with my family, and then the fact that if people knew me that saw me from my family would go back and tell, right?
Gotcha.
Even though I had moved away and was doing my thing, I was still if I went near my family, I would big clothes, covered up everything. I just didn't feel like going through it, right? Being respectful. I saw slam fuck that later. But in the midst of that, I was a bartender at the clubs, bar back club, start entertaining, then winning pageants. But I was also Warlandis at that moment. And I start collecting misfits, as I call it, because I'm a misfit. And I remember how it felt just in that time of being in this family and not feeling no connectivity, not no support. And with the suicide attempts and the tears I cried and the depression I battled with, I said, I never want anybody to deal with that. So when I start getting in community, meeting people, like you said, the larger number is homeless or housing insecure, couch surfing. I would let people stay with me and start doing this. Hey, you need something? No, you need a ride home? I'm gonna give you a ride, blah, blah, blah. So it just went into this. And then eventually it formed this House of Capri. As you know, we talk about gay houses, but I never wanted to be a gay house. That never connected with me because I wasn't gay. I was Atlantis. So and I not only was it LGBT people, but it was heterosexual cis people too. So it was in the thing of bringing back that let's take care of the human being that happens to be all these other fucking things, right? So it ended up doing that. My son grew up seeing community. We had hard times. I started seeing a lot of people battle with HIV and AIDS, drug abuse. But one thing that I did differently that I did not see, not saying it didn't occur, I made sure that I was integrated into their real family. Their parents knew me and this and that, whatever, because I, as a parent, never wanted to have a separation between my child, right? If he didn't feel comfortable talking to me, I wanted somebody to know that I am his parent. If we need you, call me. So those parents, we build this own thing like co-parenting with their biological family. And even when it will get to sick, people passing funerals. I was included in those decisions and stuff like that. So I felt that was more important for the person, that even if they don't know it, at that moment, that to know that both their family respected some part of their life.
Gotcha.
I mean, it was weird. It was, how was I doing? And I sit and think about, how was I doing this shit? I had a baby, I was struggling and this and that and whatever. How was I doing it? I just knew in my heart that there is a better way to care for us. And though I didn't grow up in like a abusive house, but I grew up in a really, really strict house, right? Really, really, truly strict, that people would never believe I grew up in. Um, and just the autonomy, not having the autonomy of me, and saying what I was saying and telling people what I was, and getting beat or whooped or punished because I said I was this girl, was not a good thing.
Mm-hmm. So, in the community, who were some of the people growing up here in Houston, like during your 20s, and um, who were some other names? Like, who were some other like people that you saw in communities that you were like, oh, they're doing similar to what I'm doing, but you get what I'm saying? They are community leaders too, or they're out here making a name for themselves. Who are some of those people?
So I think the 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 term or the title community leader um changes for each space you're in.
Yeah.
Right. So I being in the club thing, I saw people like Saka Simone, Shaniqua Siobhan. I had Jackie Onassis, like all the old heads. And we got to knowing each other. And then we'll be sitting in the house, at my house, playing cards, talking, just being those things and having that sister, even way before I performed. LaWanda Jackson, Sasha Boone. It's so many people, that was there around me growing up. And then the fact that when let's be very transparent, when I started performing and doing all that, I came in at the edge at the beginning of the trans conversation, and edging where they start realizing that they were trans entertainers and we weren't drag queens, right? So I wasn't doing the big
What year was
horse.
it?
I would say that when I came in, it was 93, right? Um, so we start 93, not about 94, 95, we start hearing more of this thing about trans random things, but it wasn't big. It became even bigger in 2000, if that makes sense, right? Where it was just really a mood thing. So the trans identity wasn't there, but I was already entertaining as the fucking cis woman on the show. I wasn't doing the big hair. That wasn't my look. I thought I was cunt, honey. I was like, that's just not gonna be my look. No, I don't want that. And I did good for that, right? I was like, no, ma'am, I'm not doing that. I remember me and Chanel Nicole, she had came out one day out the dressing room and she goes, say, Miss Warwick, who did your body work? I said, what? My mama and daddy? Oh, girl, you ain't gotta lie to me. I was like, girl, I'm calling, girl, I'm making you ask if you want to leave, girl. It wasn't that, but I don't think people understood the affirming that was to be seen right in that moment about it. And this, I'm not going to say that it was a thing of competitiveness or whatever, but to be seen at that moment, I didn't see it. Oh, girl, she jealous or none of that. I didn't feel that type of shit. I didn't operate on that type of shit because I had my own shit to deal with, and I wasn't worried about that type of bullshit. If you didn't come in my face and touch me, I'm cool. But to me, you just a chicken out there cacking. I don't care. So before that, in that moment, so early on, to see that, and no, I was like, bitch, I'm con, and so it allowed me, one, for me, I've always said I am going to, if when I became Atlantis or when I really introduced, or I hate the word transition, when I invited people in to meet Atlantis, I said, I'm going to be her at all times, no matter what I am. I said, because if I'm a different bitch in this room and a different bitch in that room and a different hoe in this room, what happened when these walls come down? I'm going to be a confused bitch. So I was like, the most thing I could be is me. Of course, we have code switching in spaces where we need to professional stuff like that. But really, people sit in this space and they are so prejudgy of me, like in this community, that they'll think I'm up there or I'm stuck up and this and that, whatever. One, I'm really fucking shy. I know people don't believe it, and I am an introvert. And when I don't like drama, I am not a person who likes to get caught in drama because I am not I don't respond like y'all. I got a bunch of trauma and hurt and pain that comes from old school trauma, hurt and pain that was bred by old school. When I blow, I blow. And I just don't want that scenario for me. And then I had a child to take care of. I couldn't afford to be in jail. This wasn't some routine where I picked up my son on the weekends. No, baby, I got up every day, coming from work, falling asleep at the stop sign where the people had to knock on my door because I'd just be leaving the club from work and taking him to school. So no, this was real to me. This was my real life. So that shit, yeah, baby, I think that had clarified my cunt, honey. At that point, I was like, I was like, I'm gonna be me. I don't need to go do this. I ain't gonna go jump and do all that. And I like that for me. I love that for me because I felt like nowhere early on did I have that agency of self. Like in my house, you're gonna dress like this. In my house, you're gonna do this. In my house, you're gonna do that. I'm not in your house. Even though I still carry some of that stuff, but I love the fact that I had some control of me. And I had some power of me. My power really came into fire when I became a parent. I was a passive person, didn't want to let people, like I didn't like confrontation. I wasn't gonna do all that. Now I fight my ass off, but it would take a lot. But it changed when you change draws, honey.
Mhm.
Just at this point, I want to be me. And even in this day now at 52, I still want to be me. I don't want to be the it girl. And I always say, girl, it girls are short 2 letters before it becomes shit.
hmm Did you having a child and you becoming in your own as an adult, did it shift your relationship with your parents? Did it shift? How did that shift in regards to like the dynamic of your relationship? It sounds like you had some trauma or some difficult um relationships growing up, but now that you're in like your late 20s, early 30s, and you have a son, you're a parent, you're being a responsible parent, you out here doing your thing. How did that shift your relationship? Because I know you shared with me that your mom has dementia and you're kind of taking care of what do
Me and my sister.
taking care of you and your sister before the dementia kicked in, but after you were out of their house. How did your relationship with them shift?
Oh, it was horrible. For clarity, I did not grow up with my dad. I met my dad at 14 by me going out to find him, and he did not want to deal with me. He wanted So it wasn't nothing about gender identity. It was some shit between him and my mom. So I never met my dad. After that, my son met my dad at his funeral. Um, so my mom is who raised me. When I with Atlantis, my mom did not like it, did not care for it. She would even though she made my first dress for Turnabout, like she would do stuff. Yeah, was the seamstress. She was sew and do stuff, but in real, and I think that's where she battled with religion and being a parent. Like she had her things about it, but she was like, I'm not gonna turn my child away. But it was moments where it was so strong, it was abusive, it was hurtful, like saying things about me as a parent. Or telling my son stuff, or you're not gonna be like your daddy and stuff like that, and blah blah blah. But I stopped talking to my mom a lot like for couples of years and stuff. I was still sending my son over there personally, like interacting with her. I wasn't going there. I was still send money to help her and do all that. I just would not communicate with her because I did not know how to deal with the pain, right? And I didn't want to keep subjecting myself. And what I did was just avoided it. And I think with her being the breeding ground for the last suicide attempt,
Mhm.
that I really said, I can't do this. I can't do this no more. I love her to death. And I had said to myself, Atlantis, if it was any other bitch on the street saying this, what would you do? Not fuck with them. And it took my partner to even say that I think you probably need a break from your mom. It was like, because I'm seeing a lot of it, and I don't think you realize how much it is infused into your day to day, how you interact with people, how you respond. Because now I question sometimes, am I really shy or introverted, or was I just beat down so much because I didn't get a chance to be me? Right. And so it makes me question at 50 something, I'm trying to figure out who the fuck I am. What does happiness look like for Atlantis? Walking into my thing, not being so humble about shit, there's a way to handle and talk to everything. I don't let people govern my conversations or my relationships with people.
I also I think it's powerful for, gracious and powerful for, for a parent to be kind of traumatizing or isolating or ostracizing, and you still grow up and it's like, I'm still sending you money to help you pay bills. I'm still handling, whatever I need to handle when it comes to your dementia. Because for me, when I was having difficulties with my mom, not about transition, just about her addiction and her just being irresponsible based on her addiction, um it started to be where I was really bitter and was like, I'm not, you don't call me for shit. I ain't doing shit for you.
Mhm.
So so for me to hear you say you still was giving her grace is a powerful thing, because I actually had to learn a little bit how I, like, if I'm still going to be connected to you, I still want to treat you like a human being, not be used. But if I want to do something nice for you, I'm doing it because I'm a nice person, not because of anything that I think like I owe you or you owe me. It is because I'm a nice person and I want to do it for you. I had to learn that process, but I think it's gracious that you still put yourself in that position.
Well, thank you, but I also feel like there's some other things that play part into that. One thing my mom told me one time, it's either me or your friend. So I hung up and blocked her. So I think also you heard me say I only had this one parent, right?
Yeah.
And regardless of it being toxic love, challenging love, whatever, that's the only version of love I knew. So I only knew that version of love. That was normal to me. And the fact was that regardless of this and that, I still love and still love her. And the fact that she could have dropped me by the wayside if she wanted to. But even in her being battered, abused, raped, and all this stuff, she never left her kids, right? So I still have respect for her in my mind. And still to this day, she is the strongest woman I've ever met in my life. And to be honest, Atlantis is a version of her, just a more healthy version and a more affirming and authentic version, right? With the work, with doing the work. So that graceness that you taught, that was the only thing I know. My first version of true unconditional fucking love was being a parent. And I think at some point I sought that out in relationships and in spaces with other people, but never found it, right? Because I was trying to figure out unconditional love and the toxic love that I got, and whatever version of love my mom gave. But I also had to give her grace because as a parent or as a human, there is no handbook on how to deal with this shit. It's unique in its own ways. People, you have to remember, I was born in early 70s by a person who was born and raised by somebody born in 1920. My grandmother did not know English. My mom is the first generation out of Louisiana. Like, it's so much trauma and so much prejudice and stuff that come in that we don't realize that my prejudice aren't from my generation. It's from my mom's generation. It's what she was taught and raised that she gave to me. And this is hard with the dementia. And I would say that how do you go back in the room with somebody that has been so toxic, especially as an adult, when you've learned, like when I graduated, I did two degrees in 3.5 years, right? I graduated and gave my mom copies of my degree. She went back in there and photoshopped it and put my birth name up and hung it on the wall.
Mm.
And she has said all type of things said about my parenting, all this and blah, 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 whatever. So when with her getting sick, even in that moment pointing out, telling myself, I'm gonna say something going on with mama, this and that, whatever. Even now I'm still phone ringing while we on it for my sister to deal with something with my mom. The thing is that as a child, I saw her go through domestic violence. I saw her struggle. I saw her do everything. And at any point of this, one, she didn't leave us. Two, she was going through her own shit. And where was the grace for her?
Mm.
Even though she didn't respond, she didn't get into therapy till her 30 something. Remember stigma around mental health. She didn't get into all that. So where was that graceful? And all I knew, that's the only parent I had. My sister we have been having conversations more because my mom played this division game between her kids. So none of us really got along. And my sister and my brother always felt like I was my mom's favorite. And my mom will say it was because she was easy to manipulate me because I just didn't. But what I told my siblings was, y'all had y'all daddy to have a conversation with to go out and do it. Did it ever occur to you that I was looking for love and this is the only parent I had? Like to my heart right now, knowing that she's getting to near the end, preparing for this, where is this gonna be?
Right. Yeah. So what was bringing you joy in these years too? What was what were some of the highlights? Like what was
Atlantis performing, competing, because they call me the ballad queen. But I did songs that I could relate to, that I wish I could say out loud in the world, right? So that my entertaining wasn't just for entertaining, it was therapy too. So it was bringing me joy for me to see that growth, to be Atlantis, one, see my child grow, but also another factor is to start seeing this change of narratives of people knowing that they can have somebody to trust in the community.
Mhm.
Right. Not saying that we don't now. We'll trust our friends when we want to go get turned up and do this and do everything. But where is that person who's worried about your real life, the FICA life, right? And not just the fun life. So I started having that, and then I started having this little tribe of Capri. You know, we were taking care of each other. We were living together, sometimes eating off the same plate, sometimes just putting all our money in the pot to see what we could do and keep going, right? Um, Going into those spaces and seeing it. What was so funny about it, I think that in all truth, it was the simplicity of existing and feeling connected, part of a tribe that was bringing me joy.
what
Even
area
though,
of Houston were you living in?
so I grew up in South Union, Third Ward, you know, like South Union, Scott over there by Cullen. And then we moved to Fifth Ward. So I was there. Then I was over in Sterling Shire. But as an adult, I moved way to the southwest side to get away from my family. So I was off of Club Creek and Town Park and all those areas. So I was seeing some stuff. But then I came back to the museum district and then just kind of been on the north side, right? So that was I lived next door to Cookie LeCook, and didn't know Cookie to that manner. I knew of Cookie, but wasn't like into that. We developed a relationship to see that there were old school people. Me and Tony Powell live around the corner from each other when he lived on Rosewood. You know, it was just that area. And I started seeing that, wow, I do have a family.
Mhm.
I do have a family that sees Atlantis, but what was so weird about Atlantis and Warlantis is that when I start using the word trans around my tribe of people and this and that, when it became a big popular thing, they would be looking at me confused. And I was like, what are you talking? Why are y'all acting like this every time we don't understand this word because we saw you as a woman. We didn't think about trans this and trans that. We seen you and always seen you as a woman. You get what I'm saying? So that was the uniqueness of it. And even when we go into this conversation about what is a woman, I always play that in my mind, right? Because you could simply just exist and your energy and essence will be seen as that it is. But there got some women out there that pull trucks, and then they got some women out there that knit. So we have to understand the diversity of what womanhood is
Mm.
in different spaces.
You are currently the ED of Save Our Sisters United Inc.
Mhm.
And when I met you in the work, you were working for Montrose Center.
Mhm.
So can you tell me your journey in activism? Like, of course, we know activism can be certain ways. It sounds like you've been doing activism, but I'm talking about in as a career. Can you tell me how that started and how it led to Save Our Sisters United?
So I would have to start off with my voluntary career, right? Like I said, I'm a person. I grew up with an aunt that was full AIDS. And I remember those isolating moments for her when she would have to go to Thomas Street and how the family would treat her and stuff like that. So when I came into the area, I started seeing so many people dropping off in a week and whatever. So when I started building these friendships and stuff, I would notice that, you know how they will have the testing people there and whatever, and you come back and you get your results. I was like, this is not good. I was like, this is probably not a good idea because one, if I'm going in there to test myself and I'm nervous, my risk factors increase if I'm drinking and doing drugs to try to numb out that, right? If I'm coming back from getting test results and it is that, once again, increase, I don't give a fuck. There's a moment where a person just feel like this is the end, right? So I had made a connection with somebody from Montrose Clinic when it was right there on Elgin. And I asked them, how would you feel about coming to my house and testing people? So I would start getting people to just come to my house and test. And what would happen was in that moment that I was like, there's another way to remove some of this not using understanding stigma. Not saying I didn't understand it, but wasn't a big word to try to make it normalized. Let's buddy people up, right? With people that's still testing. They could go get their results together. They could have this, since they're sharing this moment together as a group in my house. Cause I don't have a big office building to separate all y'all asses sitting in here and y'all know what y'all getting done, right? So right there, that's the first thing of not hiding it or whatever, because we know that a lot of people won't take medicine and do all this shit at that time because they didn't want people to see all this stuff going on. So building that buddy system, we start seeing these people still having this buddy system and stuff. So I started doing more of that. And as it came into that, I would volunteer. I was around helping Legacy build cultural trainings for not for SOS, for how to interact with trans people. I was working with M Society. I have worked with the city of Houston on voluntary scenarios, right? But what was so weird about that was that I was still struggling. It took me 15 years to get a job as Atlantis, right? But when I would ask for contract pay, communications would stop. So with that being done, and thanks Kennedy Lofton, that man was the man who got me in the Mantra Center. I went in there as a volunteer coordinator, which I was like, oh, I'm going to be so underemployed, because I have way more skill sets. But I was happy to go in that system because they had never really had a Black trans woman in there without them coming through all those stereotypes they heard, right? So within that year, I worked at the Montrose Center, but for that first year, Diamond, before I was even there a year, I had already won Employee of the Month, which is voted on by staff and, the upper leadership. And then before I even made a year, I had won Employee of the Year. I had increased so many things at the Montrose Center. There's stuff there that people will still see while still doing my own personal stuff. But before we go back in there, I think it was 2016, 2017, December the 18th, 2017 that I got hired at Montrose. But I was still in school and I graduated TSU in 2015. And I had made a pact to myself that I am going to give myself 2 years from this date of graduation that I will have a job. And I did. But I had also started Save Our Sisters United. And what it originally started with is what I did was a retreat for cis and trans women. And it was about around HIV prevention and just what is a woman? That was the main question. You define a woman. And it was so fucking powerful that each one of those women got paid $1,000 for that weekend. But what was so powerful about it was that we had a moment where we separated and we were like, write the stereotypes or the insecurities that you deal with as a woman. And we came back and brought them together. All those things, each one of those things, each board from the trans women to the cis women mirrored everything, just out of order. And what that showed me was that it was the men we dated in society that was pitting us against each other. And that there was no one definition for being a woman. And we as trans women, we truly have not had the chance to truly define ourselves without mainstream or political interventions into it. So I went there, me and Roxanne Collins started Save Our Sisters, which was the support group. And then I built out Save Our Sisters United, which now houses Save Our Sisters, Save Our Sons and Brothers, Transcending Gaming, Reign in Paradise. And this year we'll be introducing Queens of Houston, which is the community response team to natural disasters, hate crimes, all that. The thing is to bring back the connectivity and cohesiveness that this is not a me fight, but a we fight, and to come back to understanding that women, trans women directly have been, it would be no gay movement if it wasn't for trans women. There would probably not be a plethora of entertainers, gay men, butch queens, and all that if it wasn't for trans women housing them and educating them and all this stuff about. So I just wanted to bring back that homage of that, but I need our community to take care of us like we've taken care of them.
Mm. So one of the things that you have said a few times and when I'm in space with you is talking about, your body of work and how where as you're not focused, you want to take the focus out of the body of work of somebody and onto the body that does the work, because sometimes people will forget that this is actually a human being doing that work. Can you expound on that kind of thought
Oh,
process?
definitely. Thanks for bringing that up. Definitely. So when I make the statement that I want people to see the body that does the work instead of the body of work, is because as a person who has been doing this work for 30 plus years, there are areas of that self-sacrifice and the fact that I am also probably fighting for stuff that I need in that moment, or just so many things that come with that. But when people just focus on my body of work, I feel like that they did not allow me to be a human being. And that's to some point by social status that elevating my accolades, you put me on this pedestal like a museum display, but you did not put protective glassing over me. And therefore, nobody is reaching out to dust me, to check on me. And you're not looking at the weight of just that little particle of dust is putting on me, in that sense that you forget that I am something that is living, breathing, that has ups and downs, that needs grace, have bad days, that just don't fucking days I don't want to fucking do this, right? But you just look at my body of work, and then it puts in a mindset for Black people, especially Black women, that we have to continuously work 20 times harder than our white counterparts to be seen. And even in that moment, we're not being seen. It's our worth ethics that's being seen.
Mm.
And that does not, we skip doctor's appointment. I am a person, Diamond. You are with me. And I say this, whenever I tell this story, you were with me when we saw the start of that health wearing me down. Of course, I have a tumor in my head, but when we were at that mayor's office and I start throwing up and I had to get rushed to the thing for like a heart attack, that has been years on. And I kept doing the work the same way I was doing it, right? And end up next year, the same time, same month, back in the hospital. But that time I was in there for weeks because it scared me because I did not think I was making it. And I got to thinking about, okay, Atlantis and all these, somebody asked me a question, August. She said, Queen, in all these years of work, what do you have to show for it? And I thought about it was that I have a bunch of accolades. I got crowns. I got all this. I have a bunch of trauma from the community that I'm fighting for. But what I did not have was a 401k or retirement plan or know what that looks like for me. But yet I have been working consistently. Nobody thought about the body and always being in locomotion, the trajectory, what it would look like to care for this, what they assume was a well-oiled machine, but that's been grinding and grinding on no cartilage, no padding or nothing. And so I'm seeing it now, right? I'm seeing it health wise, and it makes me want to constantly challenge the younger generation. Let people figure out, think about you as a human being. Say what you need. If you're not feeling it, say you don't feel it, right? There shouldn't be no more silo in your voice for the sake of the mission. You are not the big picture, but you're a pixel in the big picture.
People say this in various ways, but you cannot take care of other people without taking care of yourself. You
Truthful.
in the long term. You can do it in the short term, but in the long term, you are going to shorten your life. You are going to shorten your own care, and which is going to intend kill you. If you're not taking care of your body, you're not getting enough sleep. You're not getting enough healthy, adequate water and food. You're not getting the basic necessities for yourself. Then you're burning from you have the emotional burning of dealing with community that is so traumatized that you're trying to help, and then you have yourself who is the physical burning of I'm not taking care of myself because I'm so invested in giving my all to this. Listen, you have to have a balance. I'm not somebody who thinks that nothing is going to take a sacrifice when you are trying to create change, but it has to be a balance. You have to make sure that you take care of yourself. And I had to learn that in my younger years because I have been put in so many situations where I would give somebody my last or sacrifice my last to help them. And then when my ship was sinking, I had nobody.
I say that, and I would say this also that when they start using the word self-care, I was like, bitch, that's a foreign language to me as a black trans woman, as a black person. Self-care to me may be working to pay my bills. But I would say this, and I tell you this all the time, it's because of watching you. Like when I remember us meeting at U of H, remember, because I was like, oh yeah, let's talk, blah, blah. But it was like at that point when we did the hug and the touch, there was a cocoon, like, okay, bitch, pay attention. Something for me. And that's why I say that as generations, regardless, we could learn from each other, right? And I saw you traveling, I saw you experiencing these things and to this, and you know it for a fact, I say this to you all the time, girl, it's you because I get up and do it now, right? You see me doing more things and stuff because I did not think that I grew up in a time where the word was said not to be safe for me, right? Even though it's still not that, right? But that you don't have to haul off and not live your life. And then I can't always be community work. Not being funny, like the community is work and frontline work is like a version of my 600-pound life. And I say this that when you take off your clothes, you never naked. You carrying on so much a weight of this and you are going through this. And sometimes community work can be addicting, especially for people who have not transitioned their personal passion to professional passion, and that when they have not done any work on themselves. So I would say some part early on, it was of the guilt of wanting to be accepted, right? And make sure nobody said bad things about me. Ew, if I do everything that they need, nobody won't say bad things about me. Fuck that, they gonna say that because that's why I grew up in my house. Like if I did this, I wouldn't have to worry about it, her saying something or fussing, right? So that kind of came in that shit started being scratched because I couldn't just do that without it impacting my kid or it impacting my state of being and my mental. And I started taking something to know. I used to get mad at why I done did this work and I give you the keys to it and you fucked it up. And you didn't and don't have no concerns or worry or no feelings about fucking it up. But the thing is, because you did not do the work to earn the money, to do the work, to get it to sign the forms, all you got was the paper. I mean, the keys saying this is yours. You didn't have to do none of that work because I did it. I stopped doing that. Part of me now for empowering my community is showing them, for them to show me what they could do, and I supplement the supports. But I no longer carry people over the finish line.
Yeah. In my brain, oh, it started when I was younger, like in regards to how I thought about the balance. I remember I was working this damn job. I think I was working at Wendy's. Yeah, I think it was Wendy's. And I had worked all these hours and got this amount of money, and I had bills that I had to pay, and all my money went to bills. And I was sitting there like, I did all of that work. And while I did, your bills is a positive thing. It was nothing I did that went to my joy and me doing for me. It was literally to oil the pockets of somebody else. And so I told myself from that day, this is when I was like 17 years old, because I got my own apartment when I was 16. So this is about 17. From that day on, I said, I don't care if it's a lollipop. I don't care what it is, whatever check that I get, I don't care what it is. I am buying me something for me, not for nobody else. I'm buying me something for me. And from that point on, since I was 17, anytime I get a check, I don't care how small it is. I don't care if it's a meal. I don't care if it's a trip. Whatever I can afford. Once my bills is paid, whatever I can afford, and even if they're not paid, I'll be short on something just
Mhm.
just so I can get this one little thing and figure it out. And I just always was dedicated to myself in a way to where I can do things. And once I got older and I was making more money, that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna start traveling. I'm gonna start buying things that I like and doing and really just focusing on outside of the work, outside of transness, outside of my family, outside of whatever I feel like are my self-proclaimed obligations. What other shit am I interested in that I want to experience? And how can I make that a reality? And that balance is what helps me do what I do and have that balance.
So, Diamond, how long have you been in Houston?
Since 2007.
And you met me when you first got here, right?
No. That was, I don't remember when that was when we were at UFH. That was maybe some years after that, though. It was some
Yeah.
years, probably
So
2000.
from that moment you first meet me in person and now being with me now, have you not seen a change in Atlantis?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah,
And
you're way more free, way more able to talk about what you have experienced and what you have contributed to the community. Less because I remember when I first was meeting you, it was very, very humble and was like, oh, like you almost didn't want to accept the accolades that people were giving you.
Mhm.
And now it's like, yes, well, you have been a mother in this community. Accept those flowers that they're giving you. And even you have said, yo, I
Mhm.
want my flowers without before I
Sure,
die.
yeah. But and I'll say that, and I'll tell you what did that, because I love what you said about what that promise you made to yourself. That promise came to me after my nest was empty, right?
Mhm.
And also with some things of really doing some personal growth and work with myself and understanding why and blah blah, but whatever. But in this moment, I remember at Spark last year, I think it was Mickey who say, "Oh, Atlantis, I I never met you, but your name been so many rooms. I just wanted to give you your flowers." And I had great Mickey, and I said, "Thank you, Mickey. But I could grow my own flowers. I have a porch in a house full of flowers. What I need is some land. What I need is equitable pay. What I need is a retirement plan. Like, and I was for the, I don't know where the fuck that came from for me to say that, but when for a moment that timid Atlantis had said, "Oh, girl, you being rude." But then I said, "No, bitch, this is what I need. Y'all keep saying giving a girl her flowers. I could grow my flowers. Give me something that I need real assistance with." Right, not being funny, and I get it. And the reason why at first I was not accepting awards, and you are so correct, I would never accept awards. And then I have a year of yes. And that year, yes, I got so many fucking awards because people's like, let's get her while she fucking doing it because we know she ain't gonna do it because people know how I am. If I don't feel it, I ain't doing it. Like, I'm gonna be true to who I am. That's one thing that I thought was the investment, being true of who I was, right? But in that, I learned the power of my no, right? And that what I'm saying was that yes, I went ahead and did that, even though it was uncomfortable, but that was also learn how to set boundaries of what I don't want to do and all that. So understanding that your yes really taught me the power of my nose and really taught me the boundaries that I want to set. When it came into Houston with the Houston narrative, people were talking about, "Oh, girl, these are the leaders," and I was like, "No, no, no, blah blah blah," because you don't want to whenever you say some shit anytime on social media or anything about another trans person, people make it a whole big fucking beef. And I don't do that type of shit good. Like, I am a crazy girl. I will go out there and find your ass before I argue with you on social media. That's just where I'm at. I'm a Christian mingle fish. But in the midst of it, I hate that they put us in competition as black trans people or trans people in general. I say this in respect to Monica and Dee Dee. Yes, they were there for trans people. They were fighting for trans and here, right? I was the one who was focused directly on black trans women wellness and this and that, whatever. Because get it, I love the root system. As you heard me, I'm a nature girl. I want to put my hand on the ground. I want to feel that. And I feel for me, people always try to make that, "Oh yeah, we at the bottom of the totem pole," and all that. I always was hearing these victim ass narratives, and that irked the shit out of me, right? Or that we only spoke about trans narratives that have been attached to sex work and stuff like that. So what it made girls who had never did sex work. My narrative not important. You ain't think I came with struggles, right? But in that thing, I got tired of us making money or getting attention off of our fucking victimship as narratives. Yes, it's real, but we have a lot of shit we should be proud of. Like being underground ain't a motherfucking problem, baby, because the root system, I can tell you right now, it's a tree way on the other side of my house that's cracking up my driveway over there because the root system is way over here, right? And I was like, that tree stays in that one fucking spot. That root system could go anywhere. And I get to work incognito and be the Harriet Tubman of this movement and move some shit. By the time they get on me, honey, I've already done it. And that's the way I run SOSU. I do not publicize what I do because, especially now, there is a plan to stop every trans thing in Texas, right? I am not going to give you the pathway, and nor do I need to feel affirmed or validated by you by what I have done. If I reach one set of ears, I've done it. And I also have said this, and other people have told me this too. If I do nothing fucking else in Houston, Texas, or across the nation in reference to transness, I have gave enough. I have gave enough. And I had to say that to myself. I have gave enough. I have gave more than enough. To hear my child at 23 say, parent, I grew up sharing you with the community, but right now, crying, Diamond, and saying that I just don't feel like the community is protecting you right now. Because at that point was that as much as they were having me in this and there, I had been followed home. I have been cornered in my apartment. I've had people knock on my door telling me what I had on, what time my roommate leaves for work, and that they'll be back. I've had feces covered on my car. Like, so what I started saying was that, hey, I'm not stepping in front of a camera until you could protect me behind the camera. And with this work, I give up so much of my safety, my visibility, and put myself at risk. And I say it's no problem with it, because it's not for me, but I had never thought about the impact that it had on the relationships with the people that care and loved on me, as you say it, right? That it put them at risk in so many spaces too. And to hear my kid cry about it. And as a parent, I was thinking, oh, I'm doing good. It's nothing bad. There ain't no narratives and this and that. That was just his words, like that my kid has said and worried about me. And even with him at 13, worrying about when I was going to live my life. I love the fact that he is attentive, right? But I also never wanted that kid to have to worry about me. I want him to live.
I love that. Because that's true. Like our lives does impact the people around us, and we have to have that balance. But that goes back to what I was saying about having that balance and knowing that, and what you said about the body that's doing the work. Like it's not just about me sharing my narrative and trauma porn and da 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 da. It's also about like what is happening when you don't see me. Like what is happening? Who is caring for me when when I'm alone or when I'm at home and just kind of needing that kind of care when I'm not
In my
on.
closet crying.
Yeah.
Like I literally did, like I told you, I had a radio interview today, and then I called Brianna because me and Brianna uplift each other, right? And I was like, why am I fucking feeling like this? It was the thing that here I am still building something, right? That people are possibly going to judge, or that if it fails, it's going to be this representation on me. But then I was like, fuck it. But at some point, I think what it was for me, and I would say this, I remember January of this year, we were all together, and I had told you that I have never had sisterhood like this in Houston because I've always been seen as the mother of the community and blah, blah, this, whatever. But like I said, once again, looking at me as that way, not thinking about what I may need as a person. And to have this now and be able to have conversations to bounce off, part of my personal and then switch to professional, to have people see me, to allow my tears to fall in from people and not have a fucking answer. And it's okay not to have an answer, but just the tears, and nobody is judging me or taking that back out into the world, right? Especially when I'm already skittish or y'all here because I've heard the trauma and seen the trauma of sisterhoods, right? But I also feel like that we have to get out of that mentality that we could have these perfect relationships and realize that a real perfect relationship is seeing a person at all sides of that, from the good and the bad. It's how you navigate that and how you do resolution. So I always feel like in relationships, even from community to personal, that there is a way that, yeah, we could break, but there's a way, one, we could be cordial and we don't have to bring this to this public stage as we do. Because right now we cannot be afforded. And I think people fail to realize, especially Black trans individuals that are just in Black in general, but definitely Black trans individuals, that when we publicly attack one of our own, They don't separate, oh, this is Diamond, this is Atlantis. They say those black trans women, or those trannies, or these men in dresses, females, all that. It don't separate that. So once again, it goes back to that thing. We really have to find that community and that individuality within that collective and learn how to take care of people's individual needs.
Gimme euphoria, more than peace of mind. It's the
So, because we talk about heavy stuff on the show, how we like to end it is because, you know, we always talk about gender dysphoria and the kind of the negative side of the life. So every show I kind of like want to end it on the positive. So what is bringing you euphoria? What is bringing you joy? What is bringing you like happiness? And it can be mundane. It can be something small this week. Like in this week, what is bringing you euphoria?
So first, I want to say that this wasn't hard and heavy. To me, this was very therapeutic, right? And I love the fact that I'm doing it, that I am saying this and doing this because I am such a Atlantis. It's just like my name, Taboo. You don't know that unless you've been there, bitch. Many people got a lot of stories, but unless you've been there, you don't know. So that's kind of giving me that euphoria. And I would say right now, in this moment, in this week, and it is the fact of simply allowing myself to exist without boundaries or restraints or guidelines. I never would do that. Like you said, you've been around me forever. People think, oh, she's a classic act and stuff. I'd be like, girl, I'm ratchet and beat you. So for me to exist, to be on the area right now recording where you got me saying profanity and all type of shit, that is euphoria for me. I love that for me. Like that is a true thing that I wanted to be able to be. Right. I want people to see me, and even if they don't see me, I want to know that shit I'm seeing me. Like fuck y'all, no offense. Like I see me every day. I got to know I see me. I want to make sure I see me. I no longer want to stare in the mirror and see no reflection of me. So this right here has really added into that thing of making that vision in that mirror. The mirror has two faces, and sometimes that other face does not show.
Mm-hmm. So what's bringing me euphoria this week is I live by the Galleria Mall, and so when I go, sometimes I go just to kind of walk around, and I was walking past Michael Kors, the store, their store, and they had like, you know how all the stores have like the window display, and one of the display they had like these big ass like oversized belts. Like it was, you know, like it's like a display. It's not like something you wear. It's like a big sculpture. Like,
Right.
and so I went in there and asked them, like, hey, when y'all, because I know y'all gonna do switch over for the Christmas holiday, and y'all gonna throw this shit away because y'all not gonna use it because it's a prop. I was
Right.
like, so if y'all gonna throw it away, can you call me and don't throw it away? Just give it to me because I want to use it as a decoration in my house. And it's this big black ass belt, like it's oversized.
Love it.
So I was like, yo, can you give me that? And this is a queer guy and he cool as hell. And he said, yeah, let me get your number and write it down. So he called me this week and said, hey, I put one of the belts aside for you because we about to do the floor set and you can come pick it up. So I went and picked it up, and I want to show you what it looks like. This is the gag. This is what brought me joy. Look how big this motherfucker is. You see how big it is? But the gag is, look at what I'm doing. This is a real belt. It's not a prop.
It's not a prop.
It's like functional. This
It's
is
a real
metal.
functional belt.
And you can take this, put it in here, and literally put the fucking belt on.
Oh, bitch, that is sickening, Diamond. That's gonna look sickening on a waist squincher.
Yes, if I put it on the other day, it was like, oh, I can actually put this bitch on, and it's actually like
Oh,
functional.
I love that.
I was gagging because I thought that it was just, I was gonna
Is
have
it made out of leather?
yeah, or I
So
don't know.
get you,
It feels like leather, but it might be not be leather, but it might
girl,
be.
get some mink oil and rub it on there, and it will help soften it where it won't crease.
I love this. This is so my
Oh,
fire.
girl, that was good. I love that for you.
So it brought me joy to have this thing. And I was like, oh, I can't wait. Because I was going to put it, I have a mannequin that I was just going to put it around the mannequin just for decoration. But now I'm like, I might wear this somewhere. This is cute.
Yes, ma'am, honey. And what you need to do is get you one of those half suit bags and hang it in there so it won't get worn out by dust. Remember how I was just saying we don't protect us.
Yeah. I love it. So that's what's
I love it for you.
Bringing me euphoria this week. Atlantis, tell the people where they can find you.
Well, hello, you can find me on planet Earth, and once I leave, you can find me on Mount Olympus. No, you can always find me, always Atlantis on Instagram. You can always, it's on Instagram as well as Facebook. You can also, if you're looking on me from a professional manner, you can find me at sosuinc.org or a Narcisse at sosuinc.org. But what I will say, if by chance you ever see me, I'm a tall goddess. And if you see me in public, please come up to me and speak to me, because believe it or not, what you may not realize that in that moment, that is telling me that I am being seen and I am part of community.
Love that. Love that. And I will put all of those links down in the bottom. Thank you for joining me. You know I love you. You are one of my favorite people in the world. And I appreciate your time every time and presence every time I'm in it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, I will talk to y'all next week. Make sure you share, like, and thumbs up the conversation, and we will see y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I make it easy to love me. I make it easy to care for me. I make it easy to share all your world with me. And if you had the best of both worlds, it still wouldn't be